Hi, everybody. My name is John Armstrong, and I help the Ontario Kinesiology Association with their stakeholder relations. And we are here doing another recording of Kinversations, and we are joined by OKA board member Stephen Maniscalco. Stephen, did I say that right?
You got pretty close.
Pretty close. How is it? How do you say it?
Maniscalco.
Maniscalco. See, I did it wrong again. There you go. I knew I would do that. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk. We're here today to talk about chronic pain. And Stephen, you're involved in private practice dealing with chronic pain. Actually, you've got a couple of different things that you do as a kinesiologist. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your day job is, and then we'll get into your discussion on chronic pain.
Yeah. So I've been a kinesiologist for a number of years now. And I've worked privately. Then I worked for a corporation, and now I'm back to working at private practice. And my private practice is kind of on the side, where my day job is I work for the Canadian Institute of Health Research. And I get to see all sorts of interesting and different research projects that encompass a variety of different topics under kind of the umbrella of nutrition, metabolism, diabetes, obesity, and arthritis and musculoskeletal things.
Wow, so that's quite an envelope. But in your private practice, you spend a lot of time dealing with chronic pain.
I see a lot of chronic pain clients. Yep, they come in a lot of different forms and shapes and sizes, and people have a real misconception that a chronic pain client should look a certain way.
What do you mean that there's a misconception? What's the misconception?
So the misconception I find is that a lot of young kids, when they're getting into the practice, they say, "Oh, so a chronic pain client should be, they should be 10 out of 10 pain. I'm in pain. Everything hurts, and I can't do anything." That's not a chronic pain client. In my experience, I haven't seen very many people like that. Most of my chronic pain clients I've experienced and have treated were, maybe today's a 10 out of 10 day, but yesterday got in my car, did my groceries, and after at the end of the day, I was wiped out. You know what? I have chronic pain, but it's only in my low back. I have chronic low back pain. They come in a lot of different styles and backgrounds. There's no one. What you say? There's no one template for a chronic pain client.
And how does a kinesiologist, as a kinesiologist, I mean, sometimes when you think about pain, or maybe not chronic pain, but when you think about pain or associated with injury or something like that, and you think about maybe be dealt with another health professional versus a kinesiologist, how does a kinesiologist deal with pain? Like what's the process that you go through? Somebody comes to see you.
Somebody comes to see me. First thing I say, "Sorry, you're in chronic pain." No, if they have a diagnosis with chronic pain, it's kind of treated a little differently. But the first thing any kin should do is their own assessment. I've read reports from doctors and other therapists who paint a picture of somebody that's completely disabled, that isn't able to walk, run, jog, lift, bend over. And so first thing they should always do is their own assessment. And that either reaffirms what they're reading in the reports, or if the person's coming to you directly, after you get to know where their limits are and what they're like that day. And I emphasize that day because chronic pain can change day to day. You could have a good day today, a bad day tomorrow. This afternoon might be great. Later tonight could be rough. So yeah, it's kind of like the first step you should always do is your own assessment. And after getting to know the people and how their pain works, you should never tell a chronic pain client that their pain isn't real, because it's real to them. And I guarantee you, if you tell them your pain's not real, they're going to walk out the door. You're never going to see them again. So you have to really create a kind of a bond of trust with them. Do your assessment, teach them what to do, and after from there, what I really like to do is I like to focus on function, because that's really kind of the crux I find. I don't want them sitting in bed, being told, oh, this hurts, don't do that. I rather focus on, I'm a kin, we're movement specialists. What can you do? Let's see where your limits are. Let's work around the constraints you have, and let's really try and optimize how you're moving, how long you're moving, and what you're moving, right? Because
in your experience, because as you alluded to it, no one can see your pain, right? So it's not a broken arm, it's not a cut. So in your experience, do the people who come and see you deal with sort of a stigma that their chronic pain isn't real?
Absolutely. How
do you overcome that?
Yeah, I'm kind of hesitant to answer that because it's really hard sometimes. The best way to do it is to gain the trust with the patient. It's to establish that connection and let them know that you believe them, that they're in pain. Pain's an electrical signal in your brain, right? I'm not part of that signal. I'm not part of that pathway. I can't tell you it doesn't exist. It's a real thing to you. So really, it's building the trust. Do things like reflective listening. Talk to the person. Let them know that you're there to help them, that you're on their side. You want to see them walk out of your clinic, home, wherever you're treating them, in the best form that they can, and you want them to feel better.
I've seen pain clinics that sort of strike a balance between dealing with the pain and then dealing with the potential mental impact of the pain, as well as potentially people who may be self-medicating in dealing with the pain. Do you have much experience with that type of thing as well?
Yeah, so it's actually funny you mentioned the pain clinic. When I was back working for a corporation, which I won't name because I'm not going to give them free publicity, but if you want to hit me up, maybe we'll reach a deal.
We'll get them as a sponsor.
Oh, now you're thinking, yeah. No, I actually ran a pain clinic with them. And what we did is we had occupational therapists and we had kinesiologists working together on these clinics for, we were doing group clinics. That's kind of the trend around most hospitals and clinics do groups, just for billing purposes, cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. But they're really great. And it's exactly like you said, because chronic pain's one thing, but oftentimes, even in regular practice with regular clients there, people don't really have one problem. People normally have a mix of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, I have a little bit of low back pain, but my neck's kind of sore too. I have an arthritic knee, but my hip has problems. Chronic pain clients can have that too. Yeah, they're dealing with pain, but like you mentioned, the stigmas are a real big issue. Depression can be very impactful because the chronic pain can affect their life. Hey, their life's changed maybe, and that really has a mental burden on them as well. So the chronic pain clients, it's very clear in research that when you have the movement aspect with kinesiologists and that psychological aspect, be it occupational therapists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, working together, we're a great team, especially for chronic pain clients. Yeah.
So for the there's a balance, or there seems to be sort of that relationship between the impact of the pain on the person's mental state, as well as probably it might be a little bit going the other way. Yeah. As well. In your and obviously everybody's different. How can you differentiate between getting somebody to feel better physically while at the same time getting them to then feel better mentally?
Get objective data. Do objective tests. I like to measure my my clients objectively, because even after you have just numbers, right? You can ask somebody subjectively, how are you feeling today? And they go, but when you say, give me a hard number, 1 to 10 right now, what are you thinking? They give you a number. And I like tracking those numbers, because after I say like, hey, you know what, weird, every Wednesday you seem to feel better. What's up with that? Let's do a little bit of history. Again, you get to know your clients, right? And maybe they're like, oh yeah, I went to Wendy's and I chatted with a friend before coming here every Wednesday, and maybe that makes them feel better. So there's a lot of different aspects that can impact them, and kind of pulling out that, is it more physical aspect? Is it more mental health aspect? Again, it's building that relationship with your client, communicating with them, and trying to get objective data and working backwards, forwards. Chronic pain clients are tricky and fun. They're all different. They don't fall under the exact same pattern between people. So my experience has get to know who you're treating. They're going to know you. You're going to know them. They're going to know that you want to help them, and we're looking for the ways to help them.
On the physical side, you say that you work on function, and you work on what you can do versus what you can't do. Are there, obviously, I understand every patient's or client's different. Are there any kind of specific regimens that you do? Is there kind of a frequency when you see people, or how do you like, you probably work towards people doing self-help, sort of working the way out of requiring to see you? Maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that the self-help I think is really important. They see us for maybe 40 minutes, an hour, however long your session is, but then they're going home for the rest of the 23 hours in the day. So I really focus on that self-help. If I'm doing manual therapy, it's a great way to go. Some chronic pain clients, some other clients, they respond great to it. Not everybody has a gym, so we can't all lift weights. Chronic pain clients, they come in all sorts of different forms. I've done weightlifting, weight training with chronic pain clients, and some of these guys, they love it, right? Some guys, women, not generalizing. But what I'll do is I'll always start slow with any chronic pain client. You start with the basics, right? How long can you sit for, right? It goes back to the assessment. How long can you sit for? Oh, you sit for 20 minutes? Okay, cool. Part of your training is going to be sit for 10, right? Sit for 10, get up, we're going to do something. How long can you walk for? I can walk for 100 meters or maybe 2 minutes. All right, cool. We're going to walk for 50 meters to start with. And if it takes you longer than a minute and a half to do that, you're going to sit down. And so I'm kind of mentioning physical activities right now.
Yeah.
Weightlifting, walking. But you shouldn't ever, how can I put this? You shouldn't ever ignore getting them to find the most comfortable position they're in, right? Because chronic pain flares up, and they should always have kind of a safety position, a position that feels best to them. I don't want to say feels good, because some people won't have a position that they feel good in. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I would really like to do is find that position. Where is it on your side with a pillow under your hips, neck support? Is it on your back? Is it standing up straight? It's also a good way because, like you mentioned, we like doing, I like doing the home treatment, self-therapy, right? I teach you how to do something. We check to make sure you're doing it right, and you can work on it at home. Because you have so much more time at home than you do with my session, and I'd bankrupt you if I lived with you for 24 hours, right? So it's also about having that time, that space, that ability to just find that most comfortable position and turn off. Mm-hmm. So they go for groceries, come back, all flared up, boom, they're relaxed. They're in their comfortable spot. They go do that walk, come back, go in that comfortable position.
Obviously pharmaceuticals, opioids, and painkillers are things that are part of the chronic pain practice. Yeah. There's lots of challenges related to it. Kinesiologists have a non-pharmacological approach to dealing with pain. What's your experience in terms of dealing with patients who are sort of also on medication?
They're great modalities. Just like if you're using TENS, acupuncture, they're modalities is what they are. If they're prescribed by a doctor, there's probably a reason that they're being prescribed in the first place. If they need medication to bring their pain down so they can function, that's great because it means they can function. Maybe not able to drive heavy machinery, go into the work site if they're construction workers, but maybe they can get around their house and go do their groceries and dress themselves. So my experience, my perspective on pharmaceuticals is they're good to get them active as a modality, to get them doing something. There's the flip side of that too, with abuse and addiction, where if you notice that they come to the clinic and they're just kind of zoned out and you know it's not safe to work with them, then you as a clinician should be aware of that and adjust accordingly. And I don't want to focus too much on opioids.
Sure.
There seems to be a big, there's a lot of research behind opioid addiction, and chronic pain. But I find in my experience, the most common substance that people use is actually marijuana. And now with the legalization, like there's no problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. But again, it kind of falls under that same category of just general pharmaceuticals. If it gets them active and moving, great. So part of my background is I took courses for my master's under the Ontario Tobacco Research Unit. So I'm very much against smoking. So whenever I hear a client has marijuana, I have more an issue with them smoking than them actually using it for any treatment or abuse or anything like that. So I kind of steer the conversation in, oh, hey, that's great. Maybe you should, stop for these health reasons instead. But I think pharmaceuticals are a great modality. Just like you would use acupuncture, manual therapy on a client. If it's beneficial to the client, why not use it? Why would you restrict something? Yeah. And after the abuse aspect, as a clinician, you should have professional judgment to be able to recognize these things and talk to your clients about them, refer them to specialists. I work out of Ottawa. I know we have a bunch of different places and people to go to. I have a list in the back that I actually have different things. People are having mental health crisis, I refer them to this place on my page. If they're having addiction issues, I have another place on my page. I don't know them off by heart, but I have a list. And I think that's actually something that a lot of clinicians have somewhere in their clinics, somewhere in the background. So if you notice addiction issues, it should be addressed appropriately.
Two last quick questions. First, related, what do you find to be the most challenging part of working with people with chronic pain? And then correspondingly, what do you find to be the most rewarding?
The hardest part is sometimes knowing that I can't help them. I've had patients that have walked in and we've ended our treatment, ended our sessions, they've walked out. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks of treatment. And I know that they're leaving the exact same way they came in. There's some people you can't do anything about. Their pain's chronic. It is going to be there for a very long time still. Those are the hardest people to treat because you know that you can't do too much for them. Now, again, it goes back to the function. Maybe we've improved their function, but we haven't done anything about their pain. Their main problem is still there. I've had people that have lost their jobs because of chronic pain, and all they want to do is they want to get back to their job because it fulfilled them so much. And I tell them at the end, I'm like, you can't go back. It's just not safe for you to go back. And I think that's the most challenging aspect of working with patients. There's some that you just can't help.
Yeah.
It's just really tough.
What about the most rewarding?
The most rewarding is finding someone that you can't help, that you know is going to be in chronic pain, and bringing a smile to them. Honestly, the most simple thing. I'm going to use a great example here. I had one guy who he went to a pain clinic somewhere, and he hated it. Absolutely despised it. He goes, you know what they did? They made sand this piece of wood over and over again for 8 hours. He goes, it was so boring. Oh, it was terrible. I couldn't do anything. I sanded, and they told me, slow down. You're going too fast. And he goes, you know what? No, what I like about you? You want me to do stuff. And I had him in the gym doing lat pull downs. And the reason we did lat pull downs is because he had mostly chronic back pain. And when his back pain became too much, he kind of relaxed, and the pull down bar pulled him up, kind of giving him some decompression. And he goes, oh, if I could stay here all day, this would be my most comfortable position. This is where I would stay. And I just remember that so much because the guy came in with such a bad attitude. He was just like, I've done this chronic pain clinics before. You know, they didn't help me. I think this is just a waste of time. And, you know, you're doing the assessment. You're not doing anything for me this session. You know, it's more waste of time. And then like 2-3 weeks later, he's like, man, I love our sessions together. It's so great. So much fun. And he goes, you know, I can't work. I'm in chronic pain. But he goes, every time I come here, I always leave with a smile. I always get a story. I always get something. And I'm like, that is the most rewarding part. I can't help his pain, but I can help his mental health. I get him out of here with a smile.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Stephen, that's all the time we've got. Stephen Maniscalco, is that right?
Yeah, you got it now.
Hey, Stephen Maniscalco, board member from the Ontario Kinesiology Association. And this is Kinversations. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.